Adeoye actually had 2 wives, but when he became a believer, he restituted the second wife. The thing messed up with my head. I was like, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Fadekemi. If you're new here, welcome. If you're old here, what's popping, my G's? My old time subscribers, you guys are welcome. And thank you guys so much for not airing me, okay? This YouTuber is grateful. Anyway, so yeah, I decided to put out a Q&A, and someone asked me, people actually asked me like a few questions, but this particular question, I think that I'm going to address it as a video on its own. And as you must have seen from the title below, today I'm talking about polygamy. So let me show you guys the question. So this person says there has been a lot of buzz about men having more than one wife. A lot of people backing up the acts with the prophets from the Old Testament and say that God created man to have more than one wife. I would like you to speak on it. Okay, so that is the question. What is my opinion about it? This is not just my opinion. Of course, my opinion will be part of it, but what I also think from scripture, from my analysis of scripture. So first of all, I want us to look at when it comes to like all these kind of issues, it's always good to look at what was Jesus' stand on it. Now, the person said that the Old Testament, people of the Old Testament, they had, they had more than one wife, and it's quite right. We had Abraham who married Sarah, had a child with Hagar, and then we have David, we have Jacob who married Leah and also married Rachel, we have Solomon. That one is the king of them all. And we see that at the end of his life, scripture actually says that these women allowed him to turn away from God. And one thing about scripture is scripture always points us to men who are just like you and I. So don't say that, because Solomon did it. Solomon had 900 wives. Why can't I have 900 wives? Solomon had 2 million wives. Why can't I do it? Solomon was not a perfect man. Even with all his wisdom, he wasn't wise enough to know that women will be your downfall if you have too many of them. But anyway, so we see that in the old time, there was that. Now, in the new time, we now see people referencing from the book of Timothy, where Paul told Timothy, yes, Paul actually wrote the book of Timothy, not Timothy. I just had to put that in there. Anyway, we see the story of how Paul was telling Timothy, because Timothy was like the head of the church. Paul was telling Timothy as his father in the Lord that, okay, if you want to choose a bishop or you want to choose a deacon, make sure that the bishop is the husband of one wife. This shows us that this is the Christian doctrine. This is what is expected of everyone who is going to serve as a leader in church or in their local church. If you are going to grow into service, then you must be the husband of one wife. You must be able to control your home. You must not be a gossip monger. All those things are there. If you check, I'm going to leave the scripture down below. So we see that is where many people take their inference from when they say that, the New Testament does not support 2 wives. That's where it comes from usually. Like, that's what people say. Now, I want us to go back to Jesus, right? What does Jesus have to say about marriage issues? Now, when the Pharisees came to him and they came to drag him like small generator, actually, the point of why they came to meet him in the synoptic gospel, that's within Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I'm going to leave the scripture below. In the book of Matthew, the Pharisees came to meet him and said that, can we divorce our wives? And Jesus said, no, that's not allowed. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Because what these men were doing was, they'll just marry one woman, give her a divorcement, tell her to go. She will leave and she will not be able to find another husband, because people were treating the women as less than in the society. And so they would not be able to find another husband, but they will find another wife, marry that one again. Like, they were just treating women anyhow. Obviously, we know that the culture in that time was different from now. So Jesus says that no, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. And then they go ahead to say that, but Moses said we can't divorce our wives. So they were trying to put Jesus, they did not come because they really wanted information. Actually, they were trying to put Jesus in a tight corner. They were trying to put Jesus in that position where Jesus would say something against Moses, and they know that the people revered Moses, like the people respected Moses, and so they wanted Moses. And when they say Moses, they meant the law. right? So they wanted Jesus to say something that would just counter the law, and then they can use it against him, right? So they said, why did Moses now say that we can write a letter of divorcement? And Jesus says, well, Moses gave you that because of the hardness of your heart. In the beginning, it wasn't so. So when we want to talk about marriage, we have to go back to the beginning and say, what was Jesus' point? What was God's point when he created the whole institution of marriage? So when he made Adam and Eve, if he wanted men to have 2 wives, he could have made Adam, Eve, Bose, Bolanle, Fadekemi, you know. But no, he made Adam and Eve, because in his books is a man and a wife, right? And we know that when Jesus came in the New Testament, the whole idea was to restore man back to the original position, which is fellowship with God, forgiveness of sin, restoration, redemption, right? Atonement of sin. All these things were what Jesus came to do, and what Jesus did by dying and resurrecting. So we know that we're supposed to go back to God's original plan for man, and that's why even the original plan of one man, one wife should be restored back. Because naturally thinking, when you think about what polygamy does, polygamy has been one of the serious issues that we have actually faced in Africa. Even though African men like to say, oh, we are African men, it's our culture, whatever. When you think about it, polygamy leads to strife. Right? I have not seen any home that had polygamy, that was like polygamous in nature, that didn't have the children looking over each other's shoulder, trying to impress their father more than the other person, trying to just make the other person look bad. There was definitely strife one way or the other. If you see children who came from polygamous home, they definitely do not want to be part of it, except the men who are oblivious to the problem, right? Because they are the benefactors of the polygamy. But it never leads to anything right. Now, secondly is, there's no polygamy starts actually from adultery. I don't know how people don't see it that way. Because before you go and meet a lady to say, oh, you want to even ask her out, right? You have another wife at home. It's usually started from the place of adultery, from the place of lusting after another woman. Then, and now I'm speaking to believers, not unbelievers. If you're an unbeliever, you may not relate, because you'll be like, oh, my own religion permits. If your religion permits it, fine. We're speaking to Christians here. So in Christianity, we know that polygamy starts from actually adultery, right? Because now Jesus actually says, this is so interesting. Jesus says in scripture, also in the synoptic gospels, that you know, like that you don't even have to, you know, sleep with a woman to actually be guilty of the sin. You just have to look at her lustfully. You just have to think about her lustfully. So if scripture is telling us that we can't look at people lustfully, tell me, how are you going to marry them without looking at them lustfully, without having desire for them, when you already have a wife at home? You know, it's different if you're just starting out, right? Scripture actually tells us that in order not to fornicate, marry. But now you're married, but you are still lusting after another person. Only a few people can say they married somebody because they were trying to help the person. Like people always say, oh, there will be more women than men, so that's why I want to marry. That's a lie. Half of the men that get married, and half of the men that get married to other women, they actually got married to them because they got pregnant for them. So there's no way you want to play out polygamy that it sounds right. When we're talking about when we're talking about scripturally, there's no way you want to play it. Like, how do you want to play that card? It does everything. There are red flags surrounding it all over the place, right? So when scripture is telling us that we can't even lust after a woman, why would it allow you to now marry another woman after you're married one woman? Do you see the problem? So we know that polygamy causes strife. The foundation of polygamy is usually adultery, lusting after another woman, lusting after another person, you know, that is not your wife. Then we know that polygamy has also led to unhealthy rivalry amongst children, amongst wives, amongst women. You see people in the old time, half of the Ogun delay, so-called Ogun delay that people say, it came from because, oh, 2 wives or 3 wives were pitching against each other. Half of the problems, the generational causes, generational problems we're having now, it was because these men married 3 wives, 4 wives. They caused problems for their children. That's my own personal opinion. So I'm saying, so I'm mixing my personal opinion with the scriptural opinion, okay? To tell you that there is no, like, even the men of old who were very, very imperfect, we see that even them that married more than 1 wife, they weren't happy doing it, right? In the beginning, it might have been nice, it might have been sweet. David was a king, so it's understandable that, you know, he would have many wives, because, you know, king, they'll bring wives, they'll just say, help us, help this person, whatever, but, and concubines, right? But it wasn't something that they totally enjoyed, if we're being honest. Look at Solomon. His life did not end well because of the women. Let's start with Abraham. Abraham had Sarah, and let me tell you, there is no woman that is happy having another wife, being a competitor. Leave all those things that people say, okay? Like your Bible say, oh, orisha jẹ́ ń pé méjì obìnrin, kò dénú, you don't reach inside. Ask Sarah. So Sarah asked Abraham to sleep with Hagar. Hagar had a child, and then Sarah started saying, oh, she's rubbing it in my face, yada yada yada. I feel like even if Hagar wasn't actually doing it on purpose, Sarah would have still felt that way, because it is a natural thing. It's just like how scripture actually says that God is jealous about his bride. It's the same way that there's this jealousy that you feel about your partner, whether you're a man or a woman. So when another person is taking that attention, come on, let's be honest. Okay, I don't know what you guys' opinion is, but comment below and tell me, what are your opinions? What do you think? So anyway, Sarah tells Abraham to send Hagar away. And what did Abraham do? He went to ask God. What did God say? Sarah is the wife. God supported the wife. And why Hagar has her own encounter with God, because, you know, God is God, the fact is the wife will always be the wife. So we see that from the beginning, the plan of God is not for a man to have many wives who will now be competing against each other. Look at the story of Jacob. He had 2 wives. These are sisters, right? So medically speaking, they were stepbrothers and cousins at the same time, right? But look at how they sold Joseph. This was because Joseph's mom was not their mom. Have you guys ever thought about it? You know, Joseph's mom only had him and his brother Benjamin. And of course, Joseph's mouth was also sharp, fine. But if it was their actual brother from their mother, there's a way that they would have behaved. So there's always that among children, the resentment, the separation, the disunity, the disloyalty that comes with being from different moms in a home, even if you are from the same father. So let's just be honest with each other and stop deceiving ourselves. Okay? Now, I don't want to even hear that, oh, it's our culture, African men are African men, we will always be this, yada, yada, yada. Now, I want to ask you guys a question. Because something is our culture, does that make it right? Right? There was a time that culture supported killing of twins because it was strange to them to have 2 children. But what did Mary Slessor do? She changed it. There was a time that culture did not allow women to go to church, to go to school. But look at us today. We are here on camera speaking proper English. If people did not adjust and change culture, if they were insisting on culture, then we will not be where we are today. So there are some things about culture that we must understand that must change. We can't stay stuck up on culture at the expense of our growth as a people. Right? So yeah, that's my take on it. Now, I have this very interesting analogy. As someone who attended Redeem at a time, I mean RCCG, if you have ever done workers in training, like I'm a very bona fide member of Redeem. And I remember that there was one time we did, when we first started our, you know, classes and all that, they told us about how the founder of Redeem, Pa Akindayomi, actually had 2 wives, but when he became a believer, he restituted the second wife. The thing messed up with my head. I was like, it didn't make sense to me, because I was like, how is that possible? How can he restitute a whole human being? Now, the funny thing is, I know someone, a couple like that also, that they were married. He had a wife first, and he married another wife. Then he and his new wife became believers. But the old wife left. They weren't divorced, they weren't separated, she was just not around. And now that he's a believer, should he send the second wife away and say, okay, the first wife is the one I really married by the courts? Or should he remain with this one, since this is the one that is the believer and that is on this journey of faith with him? Crazy, I know. Tell me, what is your opinion about restituting a wife or restituting a husband? I want to know your comments in the comment section. You guys don't air me, okay? Comment below. I want to know your opinions. I want to know what are your thoughts concerning this topic. Let's continue the conversation in the comment section. And also, please remember to subscribe. Subscribing is absolutely free, okay? Yeah, it's free.